We'll call the Tuesday, April 17, 2012 meeting of the Iredell County Board of Commissioners to order. At this point, I'll call upon our legal counsel, Mr. Bill Pope, to deliver our invocation, please, sir.
Let us pray. We'll start with a moment of silent prayer. Gracious and merciful God, once again we pause to thank you for so many blessings. We're grateful that we live in a free country, a country founded on a belief in freedom. We're thankful that we remain a free people. We thank you for those citizens who volunteer for public service. Often they're underappreciated and sometimes even abused. We've been exceptionally blessed in Iredell County to have such good and dedicated public servants. Thank you for them and for their service, and continue to be with them as they deliberate the people's business tonight. Amen.
Amen.
Stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smith, are there any adjustments of this agenda coming from the staff this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I have no adjustments to the agenda.
Okay. Are there any adjustments of this agenda from any member of the board? Hearing none, the floor is open for adoption of this agenda as presented.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to approve from Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move immediately to appointments before the board. And we're glad to have with us this evening the folks from McGill Associates who will make a presentation in regards to the solid waste financial study. Mr. Lambert, I believe you have a guest this evening.
Good evening. 2 to 3 years ago, we began to feel the impacts of the recession on our revenue streams. Mr. Mashburn asked me to find a firm qualified to assist us in financial planning. The goal was to examine the revenue streams and accurately forecast expenses. This summary you'll hear tonight attempts to deliver a full view, a full picture of these various aspects for a 15-year term. The firm I located was McGill Associates, which is fairly unique in that they provide solid waste planning as well as financial analysis. And tonight, Jeff Bishop will be presenting this summary, and he's Director of Solid Waste Services for McGill Associates.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate being the first on the agenda tonight. That's quite an honor, so thank you. Yep. As David mentioned, we've been working with him and his staff for the last couple of months to prepare a financial plan for a 15-year planning for the solid waste group, for your solid waste services group. We took into account capital improvements, equipment, operations, and we also based our evaluation on the past audits for the solid waste department and looked at the future projected disposal and required capital improvements. I'll go through this quickly. That your current fee structure basically has two items. One is the household availability fee of $52 per home per property, and base disposal rate of $35 per ton. Now, of course, there's other special items like animals, asbestos, of that thing, but those are the two main components of your rate structure. One of the reasons, as David mentioned, that we got involved was since 2005, there's been a 35% decline in your waste disposal. That's not unusual. Our county is not alone in that. We're seeing other counties faced with that same decline in waste stream. And of course, waste stream equals revenue on this. Your program is basically divided up in between chargeable and non-chargeable waste. Chargeable being waste that comes across the scales, and you can actually charge a tip fee on that. As you can see, back in FY 08-09, we had 122,374 tons came across the scales that we could charge a tip fee. In 10 and 11, the last complete year that we have, that figure had dropped to 88,000 tons. Your non-chargeable waste stream is what comes from household, either from that's dropped off from individual residents, either at one of your convenience centers or where a private hauler has actually collected that waste and brought it to the landfill. And as you can see from FY 2008, of a total of 187 tons that were handled at the landfill, our latest full year we've have 150,000 tons. What's the impact of that? Our chargeable was 65.4% in 2008, where our non-chargeable was 34.6%. That's dropped to 59% and 41%. This is primarily a reduction in the commercial and construction demolition waste. This change resulted in an annual tip fee reduction of over $1 million in annual tip fee. Based on this, we have tried to come up with some waste projections to work with our financial plan. As you can see, the total waste handled back in 2007 was 213,000 tons. As we move forward, we are projecting in 2011, 12, 13, and 14 a 0% increase in that waste tonnage. We just don't, at this time with the economy like it is, we're just not seeing we're not comfortable enough to show an increase in that waste projection. In 2014, we expect that we'll see a slight increase, moving on to a 1%, and then in 2021 we'll be up to 1.5%. Capital improvements is the main item that we looked at in this portion of the financial study. You've got a lot of projects coming up now. In the next 15 years, we've got more than $24.5 million worth of projects that need to be done in Iredell County. The largest ones are at the landfill itself, and I only listed the 6 that were above $100,000. We've got the Phase 5 construction that will be done in the next 2 years. Then we have the Phase 3 and 4 closure. We're going to eventually be moving away from the Phase 3 and 4 area, and we'll have to, by regulation, we have to go in and start closure procedures on that area. Then we'll follow up with Phase 6 construction in 17 and 18, Phase 7 in 23 and 24. We've also looked at we've identified some areas at the landfill access road where we get some backup. A lot of trucks, and so when they come into the site, they don't have a lot of room of staging room. So we'd like to do a little bit of relocation on that access road, and then and eventually in 2023 we'll look at a scale replacement. We've also looked at items that need to be done at the Mooresville transfer station. We've got a white goods collection management facility on tap for this year. That's already in the budget for this year. We need to look at getting a new office space down there. Right now they're operating without that an effective office. Eventually we'll have to resurface the tipping floor there and replace the scale deck in 2015. As far as the convenience centers are concerned, the Harmony Union Grove Station currently is on a limited lease, and it'll eventually will have to be either that lease expanded or extended, or a new site will have to be established. We're thinking that's going to have to be done sometime in the 2014 range. And then a new item would be the Troutman Area Center. This is an area that, south of Statesville here, that talking with David and his staff, that it may be something we need to put on the radar for looking out in the future for a possible new center down that way. Part of the equipment that we looked at, right now in the past we've kind of just used a piece of equipment till it absolutely can't be used anymore. I think David's done a great job of making the equipment last as long as possible, but sometimes you have to look at the actually return on the investment. You may be spending more money to keep it running than if you actually got into operating a newer piece of equipment. And we went through this equipment list. We identified equipment that didn't necessarily need to be replaced with a new one, but we also looked at just replacement with a used one. David also has gone through and been quite effective in just finding equipment that may be 2 or 3 years old that we can use for 5 or 6 or 7 years. And I think you all have a detail of both this capital improvement plan and the equipment in your package. But of course, there's a lot larger list than I've got here, but I'd be happy to answer any detailed questions that you may have on that.
Do we currently have a site in Troutman?
We do not, no ma'am. That's just a general broad brush that we need to possibly identify something in the coming year. We looked at all operational programs for the equipment, including the landfill itself, the Mooresville transfer station, and the convenience centers themselves.
Mr. Bishop, one thing
Yes, sir.
came to mind when you had the time frame for capital projects before us there. With the decrease in the rate of increase in tonnage that you see going into the future, is that reflected in that timetable for these capital projects you're talking about, as far as the closure of 3 and 4 and the opening of 5 and 6, or whatever?
Yes, sir. Sure is. We worked with David and your solid waste engineering staff.
So the decline in the rate, you can't push those out any further than what you have them listed there.
That's correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I know it's a balancing act, but just from feedback from the public, you're always hesitant to some degree to open up a convenience center because it adds to the increased cost of operation, but it doesn't really generate any more revenue for you.
That's correct.
But I think you're right in your assertion that we need to do something in the area of Troutman. You hear a lot of folks, I know David's aware of it, we do hear a lot of folks not complaining too loud yet, but I get a lot of, when I'm down around Troutman talking to folks, they would really like to see something in that area.
And you're covered pretty well up in the northern
Right.
section of the county, but the southern section, you got the transfer station or the landfill itself. So.
But I know that's going to hinge upon revenue. One thing that I looked at when you project out the rate of increases, you're showing a 1% increase in tonnage year over year, about as far as the eye can see. I mean, are you that, in terms of your economic prognostication, are you, I mean, are you just figuring in the re-election of Barack Obama, or what are you figuring in?
No, I didn't take any kind of
that'd be a 5% decline.
No, we've just, it is conservative. We think it is conservative, but when we're doing financial planning, of course, this financial plan that we've laid out in detail, it's nothing set in stone yet, but we want to make sure that we're not overly, not too, we want to be conservative in our approach because we don't want to get to a point where you need a landfill or you need a piece of equipment and all of a sudden that you have to say you have this big debt service or you don't have the money in place to go through without a debt service. And one of our goals of this financial plan was to produce a model that you did not have, it was kind of, the program was self-sustaining. You did not have to have any additional debt service incurred.
Right. Well, one more question.
Yes, sir.
Historically, when you see an economic downturn this steep and this sudden, you normally see a recovery that is faster than most recoveries. We accelerate out of it very quickly. if you're wrong and you're kind of hoping you're wrong, you're hoping the tonnage goes up and we have more money. I understand that, and I appreciate you taking that approach. If you're wrong on the tonnage, though, and it begins to increase at 4 to 5% a year,
Correct.
with resulting revenues, the time frame you have, would it have to be accelerated and moved back up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And so, I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, but if we can set up a program right now that, based on this schedule that we've outlined, we've got a revenue. That's probably not the right term. Susan would probably correct me on that. Revenue neutral, but we've got a program that we can pay for. We can pay for what we're proposing now. And so, if we get an increase, and we have to move that schedule back a little bit, or back toward we have to do those projects earlier, we have to buy equipment earlier, then we've got a revenue stream that will support that.
And you will adjust your
Exactly right.
plan accordingly.
And I wish I could say that you could take this plan and not do anything with it for the next 15 years, but you can't do that. It is it's a living, it's a dynamic tool, and you've got to continue to update the plan every year.
I understand what you're facing. I mean, an economic downturn impacts this quickly.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Economic upturn impacts it quickly as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
I have another question.
Yes.
Does phase 3 and 4 have to be replaced simply because of the state guidelines on that, or has phase 3 and 4 reached capacity? Is it solely because of the guidelines? If the guidelines from the state were different, could we get more usage out of phase 3 and 4?
When we've got that programmed in to come in, starting that process in year 3, 2014, is actually when construction would take place on that on the closure of that area.
I thought the closure on phase 3 was sooner.
There'd have to be some design and design work done, so that's actually, I have that started in 2013, 2014 range,
Right.
But the actual construction wouldn't take place until probably 2014. But that would be as a result of reaching capacity of phase 3 and 4, how it's currently permitted.
Okay, thank you.
And then there are certain rules that you have to close it within after you put your last bit of waste in there. So.
Okay.
Mr. Bishop, how are our rates compared to other counties in our area for what it's costing us to operate the landfill?
I think they're very comparable. The one I'm most familiar with is Catawba County, and they're right in there about $33, $34 a ton, plus that $2 tip fee. And so, they're somewhere right in there, that 35, 36 range total. And so and I kind of compare, you need to kind of compare a similar size and a similar amount of waste that they're handling. And you can't necessarily compare to a county that's taking in 100 tons versus y'all. So.
All right, well, we're frequently hit with questions from constituents that, well, it's a downturn, you need to cut costs. Where could we cut costs in our landfill with our costs that we've obligated our debt service to? I mean, just...
Unfortunately, we did look at that, and y'all are running very efficiently right now. There's a certain certain things that have to be done on a daily basis, no matter whether you've got 200 tons coming in or 400 tons or 600 tons coming in. You still have to maintain your erosion control. You still have to cover your waste. You still have to handle your recycling without changing programs. I guess you could eliminate programs potentially, but right, how we were looking at this financial study, we were maintaining the same amount of programs, the same service to the county.
You're saying programs. Are you talking about the recycling programs?
It could be any number of things. It could be recycling. It could be leaf and limb. It could be your brush. It could be stumps or anything else that you take in now. Tires, however any program that you have.
Right, most of the items we're recycling, I understand that we're bottomed out on what we're getting for them, maybe even losing money on some of them. Is that correct?
Recycling is a tough is a tough area. I can't come up here and say that it's a win-win situation. Sometimes, with the market, you can make a little money on recycling, but it's very variable, and so we don't usually put a lot of where you're going to make a lot of money on recycling. I mean, it's kind of either right at break even or maybe even a little bit lost sometimes. But what's not taken into account is by recycling, you're also diverting that waste from the landfill, and so you're getting some credit for that maybe not be able to show on paper.
Okay. Any other questions?
I was just going to say, if most of the variable tonnage is due to construction and demolition, the housing market's probably not coming back till the job market comes back. So I would say these low figures are probably something we can hang our hat on, despite the results of the presidential election, probably for maybe 2 to 3 years at least. So
I would anticipate you'd see an increase in the commercial and industrial waste prior to you see a lot of demolition.
Well, he's saying that really wasn't what caused the change. It was primarily construction.
From both those two entities, those are your chargeable waste.
Okay.
Yes, so that waste stream.
Yeah.
We don't break those out, but
People are not going to buy a house until they got a job.
Right.
exactly right. And and then there's a certain amount back in the late 2000s, or I guess middle 2000s, we built a lot of houses, and so there's a lot of inventory out there. So.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
We thank you for the comprehensive approach you've
Thank you.
taken here, Mr. Bishop. And we're thankful for Mr. Lambert here. He does a good job for us in managing that facility. We have a presentation from Ms. Ayers, Westmoreland, in regards to the need for a county ordinance pertaining to unmowed lawns, but my understanding, Ms. Westmoreland was not to attend this evening. You know
Yes, sir.
she's here? Okay. We have no public hearing scheduled this evening, so that brings us to administrative matters. Mr. Smith, I'll let you preside for a few minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Memo number 3, our first item is a request from Social Services Department for approval of budget amendment number 45, and Yvette Smith will make that presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, the Department of Social Services has received an additional allocation of $39,016 for our adult daycare program. And I'm asking for the commissioners to recognize and approve this funding. This money is for our county citizens, and it helps with adult daycare at Lifespan and the Elder Center. Thank you.
Any questions of Ms. Smith?
Is this just pass-through money from the state? Is that what it is?
It is, but it has some county money in it at 12.5%.
Mr. Smith, is it your understanding that about 12.5% of this $39,000 is our money?
Yes, it is. It
Is that money that's already been budgeted in this budget year?
Yes, it is. Has, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions of Ms. Smith? I was at the Lifespan building this morning for their reception. Was not able to stay very long, but they had a nice crowd down there.
Great.
Okay. Floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve amendment number 45.
Motion to approve amendment number 45 comes from Vice Chairman Norman. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next item, memo number 4, Rick Dowdle is here with the Sheriff's Office for approval, or request approval of budget amendment number 46.
Good evening. We'd like to recognize $33,922 in seized funds to lease some vehicles for our special operations.
Okay. Floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Motion for approval comes from Mr. Mitchell. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
On our next item, we have one of our canine officers, David Prevette, is going to be retiring. His canine has been with him pretty much a fair long time, and he's aged out at this time. And we're asking that we be able to retire that canine and then let the purchasing agent be able to work on where the handler can purchase the dog.
Okay. When's Mr. Prevette retiring?
End of the month.
Well, you'll have plenty of radios when he retires. He's got every communication device in the world strapped around his waist. He gets in trouble, he's calling somebody somehow. Okay.
Kind of helps the dog in. Is he pretty good shape? I realize he's getting maxed out for doing work, but is he in pretty good shape for
Age, they get a lot of wear and tear riding in that car. Takes a toll on them after a while.
Talking about David or the dog?
Well,
he got money's worth out of him. He's done a
oh
good-
yes, sir, very much so.
Yeah. All right. Floor is
So
open.
we're not declaring David surplus, right?
Just his dog.
Okay. Floor is open for a motion.
Make a motion to approve that, get on the right agenda item here.
Memo 5.
Amendment number 5. This is why you're not going to get one of these, right? One of these.
You're right.
There you go.
Motion to approve request for the Canine unit to be declared surplus and adoption of the resolution allowing the purchase agent to sell the unit.
Okay. Motion for approval from Ms. Griffith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
The next item, memo number 6, is a request from the Health Department for approval of 2 current procedural terminology codes and associated fees.
We're requesting approval to add to our current fee schedule, the codes, CPT code 99408 for substance abuse counseling questionnaire is for ages 11 through 20, and the associated fee of $35. And the CPT code 99406 tobacco cessation counseling with the associated fee of $15. We're already required to offer many of these types of services in our clinics, and these new codes and fees will allow us to be reimbursed for these services. The Board of Health did approve these on April the 12th, and so we're asking for approval of CPT code 99408 and the related $35 fee, and CPT code 99406 and the related $15 fee.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Campbell? Hearing none, the floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, the board did approve these unanimously at our last meeting, so I move that we approve CPT code 99408 with a fee of $35 and CPT code 99406 with a fee of $15.
Okay. We have a motion for approval from Mr. Mitchell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Memo number 7 is a request from the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council for approval of FY13 funding plan, and Jim Mixon is here to make that presentation.
Good evening. Local JCPC met last month to consider proposals for agencies offering service to juveniles in Iredell County that are at risk of delinquency and have been adjudicated undisciplined. The state funding we estimate will be $286,796. I believe y'all have the memo of the breakdown of that. Past year, we held about 10% of that unallocated because we were concerned about the state's budget, and we kind of held that in reserve. This year, we're only going to hold about, we're asking only to hold about 2% of that $5,166 is unallocated funds, and that is in anticipation of a possible administrative fee that we got hit with last year in regards to Project Challenge.
All right, any questions, Mr. Mixon?
Do you think 2% in reserve is large enough?
We do. We've been in consultation with our area rep for the Department of Juvenile Justice, and the Department of Juvenile Justice has told us they don't see
Foresee any
a cut this year.
decrease in funding?
And really, we weren't cut last year. We were just being cautious. The year before, we got cut.
Okay. Any other questions? Floor is open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve this budget as presented.
A motion from Mr. Robertson to approve this budget as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jim, get a haircut before you appear before this board again, okay?
The next request is from the Tax Department for approval of the March 2012 refunds and releases, and there are no county commissioners on these lists.
Okay, floor is open for a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to approve comes from Commissioner Robertson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And the final item is a request for approval of the April 3rd, 2012 minutes.
Okay. I assume we've all had ample opportunity to review those minutes. If there's no amendments or corrections, the floor is open for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve comes from Vice Chairman Norman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Smith. That brings us to announcements of vacancies occurring on boards and commissions. That's memo number 9. At this point, I would like to offer a motion we suspend our rules and go ahead and vote on the appointment to the Fairgrounds Committee, because we have a meeting coming up tomorrow afternoon, and we'll go ahead and I'll nominate Ms. Nancy Keith, our new Ag Extension Director. I will make that motion that we close the floor to nominations and appoint Ms. Keith by acclamation. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have the Local Emergency Planning Committee as an announcement, and that brings us to appointments to boards and commission. The Troutman Board of Adjustment, extraterritorial jurisdiction. We have one appointment. Floor is open.
Mr. Chairman, the town of Troutman has recommended Helen S. Byers to fill the unexpired term, and I make a motion that we appoint her.
Okay. Ms. Byers, Helen S. Byers, has been nominated by Commissioner Mitchell. Are there any other nominations? If not, I move we close the floor to nominations and appoint Ms. Byers by acclamation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there any unfinished business to come to our attention?
Mr. Chairman, not unfinished business, but just at our last meeting, we did a resolution for the child abuse, Ms. Amy Isley.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a meeting down in Mooresville just one day last week, and you could have heard a pin drop while Ms. Isley was giving her presentation. That there has been 55 children in Iredell County placed in foster care in the first quarter of this year. And the result of that, she said, was from a huge amount was just substance abuse only. So I want to tell you that she is a valuable asset to us, and we have a problem in our county that we're going to have to address.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I will mention sometime in the near future, Mr. Mike Holder will appear before us to make a presentation on improvements down the I-77 corridor, and I believe he's probably going to be here second meeting in probably May, it looks like. Frank and I and Joey Roskowski met with him last week. Okay, any other unfinished business? Public comment period. Ms. Dearman, did your gentleman show up? Well, you're welcome back anytime. Yes, ma'am. Okay, any new business? County manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, someone did stand up at the back.
Did they? I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. If you would state your name for the clerk.
My name is Katie Patterson, and I'm a teacher in Iredell County. And I just wanted to, first of all, thank the Commission for the dedication that you've shown in past years towards supporting public education in Iredell County. And I just wanted to kind of bring you some good news tonight about what's going on in Iredell Statesville schools. Even with the loss of funding due to the downturn in the economy, we have still in the classroom in Iredell Statesville schools have wonderful things going on. And I just wanted to share some of that with you tonight. I also wanted to thank you for pushing through and approving the controversial tax increase that we had for this school year. And I just wanted to make sure that the Commission was aware that as educators, we are dedicated to being good custodians of the money that is given to us. And even with our classrooms kind of being full to overflowing and operating on a shoestring, we have beautiful things happening every day. I was going to share with you some of the statistics that are on the school website about how Iredell Statesville Schools is tops when it comes to students performing in the state, and that we have a very low dropout rate. But I really personally wanted to share with you a story about something that I experienced with some of my peers, just to let you know about what's happening in Iredell Statesville schools. One of the things that's happening for teachers around the state right now is everybody's being faced with new Common Core standards. It has teachers shaking in their boots because these standards are broader, they're deeper, they're asking teachers to be more rigorous. They're demanding so much more of educators than ever before. And last year, when I sat down with some of my peers and we opened up the Common Core standards for the first time, our reaction was not one of horror. It was one of joy. I was like, finally, the country's getting it, what we need to be doing. And every standard, as we went through, we saw that we were already doing these things in the classroom. And I'm not trying to tell you that we as a group are any kind of special educators. It's because of the way Iredell Statesville Schools is administered. Teachers are given autonomy. But not just a total loose rein. We are given very strict goal-setting devices for continuous classroom improvement, and we use those tools. And so what's happening is student learning is being impacted on a level that I wish I could bring you into a classroom with me to show you what's going on. So I just wanted to urge you to continue to fund public education. We're facing more shortfalls this coming year, and we all recognize that. We're making do, and we're working hard to make ends meet in the classroom, but I wanted to thank you for that and invite you, come out and see what's happening in the classroom with our students. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, ma'am.
Whoa, can we hold up for 1 second? Ms. Patterson, if you can stand back up. I normally don't do this, but I'm just going to take the opportunity since you came. Miss Katie Patterson was my son's 8th grade honors English teacher. And Ken, his dad's an engineer, his mom's an engineer, so he was probably genetically predisposed to doing well in math. He was equally predisposed to not do as well in the language arts. And it was competitive to get into her 8th grade AG language arts course, and you worked his fingers to the bone, I remember. As a parent, I remember. But 3 years later, when he took the SAT, not only did he do well in the math portion, he did well in the language arts portion because of what you taught him about roots and stems and the parts of language arts that are included in those standardized tests. That opened up the SAT score is one of the great gateways or barriers to some people being able to pursue higher education, and it's also a way to open doors. And what you taught him enabled him to have an opportunity to go to the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. It's been a phenomenal experience for him. And this, to me, I think is just a walking example of where a teacher can make a profound difference, not just on a student, but to be honest with you, on an entire family. So I know that there are times when being a teacher is difficult, but I just wanted to share with the audience what a difference one person can make on another. And when I think of all the hundreds of children that you have educated over the years, the impact that you've had on society is quite profound. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am. If you would state your name.
Does that mean sit down? My time's up. My name is Stephanie Wood, and I teach at North Iredell High School. I also have a daughter that's a teenager as well. And first of all, I want to tell you, all of you, that I've read through your minutes, especially the ones of the planning meeting. And I really appreciated the comments that you made about the safety, the SROs, the importance, and you really asked a lot of good questions. And they have decided, obviously, not to cut some of those positions. That, as a parent, makes me feel very good in that you saw the importance of their positions, because I know my daughter is safe. And it also makes me feel very safe as an employee of Iredell Statesville Schools. I'm a product of Iredell Statesville Schools, and we all know that education is not perfect. We all know that there are excellent teachers, and there are those that could use a little help. But I want to say that as much as a teacher makes a difference, especially to those who are gifted, of which my child is, so I associate with you, I also teach inclusion students, and they are the ones that need us desperately. My daughter will learn despite her teachers. My inclusion students need me. And when you have 33 students in a class, with half of them sometimes being special needs, and you only have an EC teacher 2 or 3 times a week, we're doing those children an injustice. And we talk about dropout rates in the county being lower, but at our school they're higher. Their parents are on drugs, as you just mentioned, Commissioner Mitchell. I just upgraded you. And I know the budget is tight, and as a Republican and someone who doesn't like their taxes increased, I appreciate all that you do on behalf of the taxpayers. But as a teacher, I'm doing everything I can for every student in my classroom. I was back there at the beginning of your meeting grading papers because I refuse to give my students less because there's more of them in a classroom. And I know that balancing the budget is not easy, but I would just really ask that you look at the amount of money that we spend on our students, and we really take a look at what's important. Safety is important. SAP, counseling these students whose parents are a mess. Counseling these students who, we have one that dropped out because he got married at 9th grade. We have all kind of problems. And at a meeting today, I wasn't there, but my husband was, at our SIT meeting today, we discussed at our school, how do we fix the dropout problem? The problem that was never mentioned are parents. We can't fix parents. All we can do is work with the children of the unfixable parents. So we just ask on your behalf, as a teacher who's been here 20 years and who has appreciated her experiences as an Iredell Statesville school educator. I was a Teacher of the Year, finalist for the North Carolina Teacher of the Year. I only tell you that to tell you that I'm a product of this school system. That is what Iredell Statesville Schools has given me. It's the education my daughter is getting. And I just really hope that where there is money available, if it is in a surplus, if it is cutting out somebody's lunch, I don't care. Okay? I'm taking my cuts, and I would just appreciate that you do all you can for the children of Iredell County. Thank you.
Ms. Wood, before you step down, I want to thank you for what you're saying. But, you know, my wife just retired as a teacher, and this is the time of year those rumors start flying about cuts, and she would come home what are we going to do with these education cuts? Where are you getting them from? I said, our board hasn't discussed them, so please, we have not discussed any cuts at all. So
well, I'm aware of that. That's why I say I'm aware of that, and I also appreciate the fact, like I said, I read through your minutes, and I know where your heart is. So I'm just saying wherever there's money, we'll take it.
Yeah, we don't know what the feds are going to do to education nor the state, but this board here, every member on it is fully aware of what we need to do, and we're going to try to do our best.
Thank you, sir.
I want you to know it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? I don't want to. Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please. If you would state your name, please, ma'am.
I'm Natalie Lancaster. I'm a mom of, and my kids. I have 2 kids in Lakeshore Elementary. Here to represent that. And I'm also here to back these 2 teachers up on what pretty much they just said. I volunteer in both my kids' classes, and I have an opportunity to see what they need. Both my kids are in separate classes, and one of them is a type A. He doesn't need a lot of help, but I have another student, one of my other kids who's in another class who does need a lot of help. And I see how large the classes are, and as the years gone on, some of the classes have expanded. And some of those children need special needs, and as a result, some of the kids are lacking. And it'd be nice to see if some of the teachers can get some more help, some available help, and maybe some more technologies too in the classroom to help with the growing need to teach these children. Because you can see that these children really, really want to learn, and with the new program, the new curriculum they have, it is fantastic. And it goes back to the way that I remember learning as a kid. And I think it's great, and the kids want to feed off of it, and they want to learn as much as they possibly can. But I've seen some of them just kind of struggle with it because sometimes the teachers trying to work with some of the other kids are getting behind and stuff. But I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. I think it's fantastic how the education system is growing, and we really appreciate everything that you're doing. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Glenda Binge, and if you will allow me, please, to read mine because I'm very nervous and I want to make sure I say the right thing. I'm sorry.
You just take your time.
We're nervous too.
As you can see, there's nobody up here of great orators, so you just take your time.
Currently, I'm a 2nd grade teacher assistant at Shepherd Elementary and have been an assistant for 13 and a half years. My becoming a teacher assistant was a calling I felt in my heart from God to work with children. So the reason I come before you tonight is not to remind you of statistics of how low school funding is. That you're already aware of. And I know you do your part, and I appreciate that. I have come tonight to speak to you on behalf of my children. Even though I don't have any biological children in the school system, I do have heart-made children. I've come to speak for the little junior who is grade level and who is above grade level and needs to excel in his schoolwork. And I also come to you for little Sissy, who has a lot of challenges to overcome and needs to be nurtured in order for her to excel academically. As a teacher assistant, one of my roles is to assist my teacher by working with small groups and sometimes one-on-one with children who are having trouble understanding or just getting a concept. I do this by using manipulatives, extra books, educational board games, computer programs. We also use the smart board, which allows them to see an animation or to get up and actually have hands-on active learning, which some students need and all students enjoy. That is giving them the passion they need for learning. These manipulatives and this technology cost a lot of money nowadays. Included in the Iredell Statesville school system's mission is to rigorously challenge all students, and its vision is igniting that passion for learning. In today's society, this is expensive to attain, and I ask you tonight to please fund for our children. Some people say that children are our future. But I say they're our present, because if we don't invest in them in the present, we won't have them to take over our future. I greatly appreciate your willingness to listen to me tonight, and I do highly respect your position as our county commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I sense it took some courage for you to do that, and I appreciate it. Okay, anyone else? All right. Any new business? Anyone have anything? County Manager's report. Mr. Smith?
Just a couple of quick items. We've been working pretty diligently on the budget, and we are planning at this point to bring it to you on May 15th for just to submit to you and give the budget message. And what I would like to also do is, at the upcoming meeting, go ahead and set our schedule for our budget work sessions, so we can go ahead and get those scheduled a little bit in advance.
I thought we already did.
Well, we had some dates in the calendar, but those were basically just earmark them if you can, and if they still work, that's fine, but we'll firm those up at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's fine. As long as I've got a few days' notice, I can make most of it.
And that's all I have.
Okay. We have no closed session this evening that I'm aware of, so it's appropriate for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion to adjourn from Ms. Griffith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Copies of my schedule.